Quickly, couple of housekeeping rules. Firstly, I know my forehead's really shiny and I'm in manual settings, so I'm not quite sure how this is going to turn out. It's late at 10:30 at night. I've also got shower hair and I don't care. Anyway, I'm going to talk about Donald Trump, but before I get into it, I just want to say this. I've only ever read 4 books in my life. One of them was a book called How to Think Big and Kick Ass by Donald Trump. It's one of the best books I ever read. Very quickly, I was in business about 8 years ago and I read this book, okay? And there's a passage in it at the start where there's a guy that wants to get Donald Trump to speak at one of his conventions as a keynote speaker. He's going to pay Donald a fee, and as a result, he's going to sell tickets. He rings up the Trump place, gets through the secretary, offers $25,000, they brush him off. You know, a couple of months later, this guy offers him $50,000. Months and months go on, goes on $100,000, and I think he offers him $1 million. It's like everything he has in the world. He offers $1 million to get Donald Trump. I don't remember the story. It might have been less, 250, but you know, 500. It was a lot of money. This guy put it all on the line, and Donald Trump rang him up. And first of all, the guy just thought it was a prank. He just thought it was a friends. But Donald Trump actually rang this guy up. It's in the book. And Donald Trump said to him, "How many people do you normally have at one of your events?" And I think he said something like, "The most I've ever had is 2,000. And Donald Trump said, "Listen, I'm only going to speak if you get a minimum of 10,000 people there." And the guy just thought, "I can't do that." And Donald said, "Well, that's the way it's going to be, otherwise I don't speak." Anyway, the guy ran around like a lunatic and he got a bigger venue and he sold more tickets. And he was pushed beyond his absolute limits. And he got Donald Trump to speak at his event. And I think he sold something like 35,000 tickets, like 3 or 4 times more than the absolute most he thought he could possibly sell. And Donald spoke, and look, I don't remember the story verbatim. It's 7 or 8 years ago. Those numbers probably aren't right, but it's something like that. But the moral of the story is this, is that the guy was pushed beyond his limit and he proved his own thinking wrong. And, you know, he was made to operate well and truly outside of the boundaries of what he ever thought he could do. Now listen, this is what I love about Donald Trump. Now the reason I'm telling you this story is because when I read that book, and I've only ever read 4 books in my life, about a week prior to reading that book, when I had a business partner, this is before Michelle Winkle, and I won't go into names, but when I had my first business partner, what was happening was I was doing a lot more than this other person in the business, and I went to them, these 2 people, and I won't identify them, but I went to this couple, and I said, "Listen, I'm doing all this, it's my license in the business, the people align with me, I'm actually not listing and selling as much now, I'm more managing the business, I'd like to pay myself X amount of money." Now, I was basically thrown out of their home. They told me I was abused, they you know, he had a go at me. I felt really humiliated. And then I felt really angry because I didn't feel that my work was valued, and this thing was my baby anyway. So then about a few days later, I finished the book, and then I gave them an offer to buy them out. It was a 4-year buyout, and it was close to $1 million. It was about 6 times more than what they'd bought in for about 4 months prior. This was a massive figure. And some people said, "You are insane, just stick with it." And one guy, and I won't mention his name, but one guy said, "You should do whatever it takes to buy them out, you don't need a business partner." So I read this book and I did the deal and I bought them out for close to $1 million. It was a 4-year buyout. And I won't go into too many details, but it was a massive amount of money. I was overstretched. Now listen to this. The next year after I bought them out, I made all that money back. We had our best year in 2010, 2011 that we'd ever traded. I made close to 7 figures, like about 10 grand away from it, on paper confirmed, as personal income. And then the year after that, I then sold half of my business with terms that I wanted. So I was, you know, I had the overriding vote. If I was to have any more business partners, I was just more experienced. So I structured the next, you know, business deal with Michelle differently so that I could control the business really. Although I listen to other shareholders, I have an overriding vote. And that's the only way I will go into business with people, because it's my vision, I know where we're heading, and that's just how it is. So I did the buyout, and then me and Michelle went into business, and then I sold her half of the business, and I won't go into the figures, but it all worked out. But if I didn't read this book and didn't believe in this, I don't think I would have done it. Now, I just want to talk about, just quickly, about Donald Trump. Firstly, before people condemn me to hell, like a lot of people, I am the silent majority. I've been too scared to say anything positive about Donald Trump because, you know, well, firstly, he said some really stupid stuff. Like, you go, oh, man, I can't believe he just said that. Like, about the Paris attacks, you know, when all those people were murdered, and he said, you know, and this was just to appease the NRA or to get their vote. He said, well, maybe if the civilians had guns, if they were armed, you know, I mean, I just, like a lot of people, I disagree with all that stuff. I disagree with virtually no one being prosecuted with the GFC. I disagree with the pharmaceutical companies, you know, basically running the United States. More than 1 million people a year die a year in the United States just through not having basic health care. If they crossed the border, this is a fact, if they crossed the border to Canada, they would still be alive. That's 1 million people a year. This is a first world country. I mean, all this stuff. So I don't care about Clinton, and I actually don't care about Trump either. But what I think is, I think Trump, whether people want to say it or not, he inspires change, whether you like it or not, whether that's a good change or bad change. Now, I personally, and I'll end the rant here, I personally like to believe in the good of the human spirit, and I believe that fundamentally every person wants to do good, and I believe that a person in power wants to leave a legacy. This guy has kids that clearly look up to him, and when he walked out for his presidential speech, that was a man that was humbled. And I personally hope that he is a great American president. I love America. I love traveling there. It's such a beautiful country. You know, recently they're traveling through, you know, Montana and Wyoming. I got married there to Stacey recently. I love America. I've been there 4 times. I believe the country needs change. I believe it's decaying. I believe it's just so all over the place. And I just believe in some of the core fundamental stuff he says. Like, you know, why should we be trillions in debt but still be the policemen of the world? Why can't we feed people at home but we're in all these wars and spending trillions of dollars? You know, there's just core stuff I believe in. And I know other people will say, yeah, but he said this about touching women's genitalia and he's done this and said this, and yeah, I totally agree, he said some stupid stuff. But Hillary Clinton has played the political game. You know, what I loved about watching this all pan out is that the media tried to manipulate an outcome, just so brutal, and the tenacity of him. He just stood his ground, and he just fought and fought and fought. And the media doesn't own the world. I know they tried to manipulate outcomes. I've been in trouble myself. I got caught up in a newspaper war at one point there in my career, and I thought that was the end, and lots of bad things were written about me which were not true. We survived it. You know, I just admire his tenacity. And for guys like me that haven't come from money, he inspires people like me. I love tenacity. It means, you know, tenacity is a thing that no matter what happens, you never, ever, ever, ever give up. You just keep going. You know, I admire and respect him for that. I think it's, you know, I had tears in my eyes when he walked out and did his speech. It's amazing. My name's Daniel Hayes. Thanks for watching $1 Million Bogan Australia. So make sure you click the button right here. I'm gonna go.